Greetings, this is the Calicatster, and I'm wearing the same shirt that from 3 days ago. I washed it. I am going to do a review of Killing Jesus by Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard. Yes, Killing Jesus. Yes, Bill O'Reilly and his friend Martin Dugard, who obviously the other guy actually wrote this. Just like the Killing Lincoln and Killing Kennedy and all the other killing someone books. This is, of course, Killing Jesus. Killing Jesus, I guess, is okay, because nobody's going to attack him. But, that said, the Christian right have attacked this book. His alleged history, Killing Lincoln, Killing Kennedy, yeah, I'm not going to read the blurb or anything, but basically this is a allegedly historical account of Jesus' life and ministry according to a Irish Catholic dude from Fox who is a news pundit. Yes, news pundit. Yes, Bill, no, you are a sensationalist guy. Come on. Conservative sensationalist. And you like to write stuff about things to get people's attention, and that's it. You're an entertainment guy. You're an entertainment guy. You gotta admit that. All right, you're an entertainment guy. Fox is pretty much a tabloid, so okay, that's a given. Here we have Killing Jesus. It has some 280 pages, and it's a source appendices of several events and some illustrations. He gives a lot of sources for his historical book to make this seem like it is a history book, and that is a here's a picture. See, a history book like this would be in schools. It shouldn't be in schools because it's wrong. All right, now it was as a centrist Christian, leaning toward the progressive a little bit. I'll admit to that, we're leaning to the progressive. I'm actually a little more progressive than the church I attend, actually. And I don't buy that everything is literally the transliterated word. But this book goes a little too far in that direction. Ironically, this book is too lenient with that thing. So I'm going to go actually not progressive on this case. I'm going to say this book doesn't have enough of the Jesus thing in it. Because this book tries to make it sound like Jesus is just a guy that lived and died at the hands of the Romans, and that the apostles were confused all the time about what he was saying, and up until the end didn't realize, oh yeah, he was going to get resurrected and stuff. Of course, O'Reilly conveniently leaves those parts out. Yeah. In the typical Mel Gibson type of fashion. So it's funny. So I would say the Killing Lincoln book was actually better, but I'm not going to review that. Killing Kennedy had some mistakes. This has some interesting oddities, but I won't go into the oddities just because it's not really a history book. I consider it a fictionalization of the story of Jesus by a sensationalist pundit on the news. So that's what it is. And it's hilarious that I'm wearing a Transformers shirt, so I'll appear like some sort of slacker stoner in California, even though I've never actually imbibed. Not intentionally, but yeah, I do watch Jon Stewart, and so that makes me automatically a flaming liberal. The story is about Jesus and his life and times. It's about the Roman period. He gets some of the emperors wrong, which is hilarious. And starts the story into, I didn't actually get to Jesus until about halfway through. And he tries to, like, add these extra alliterations in there, like if he was up on the cross, he couldn't be heard, really, because there'd be crowds shouting and stuff, and, or weird stuff like that, or, you know, Lazarus, you really didn't get resurrected, yeah, it was really like a, medical science or something, or, and there's a lot of these weird little, or he'll mention this building, he mentioned a fortress and stuff like that, and where all this other stuff was happening, and Lazarus is a big part of it for some reason. Took some of the Apocrypha there. But and the emperors and Pilate and what he was thinking. And that's nice, but at times, like, he will add stuff that obviously isn't from the Septuagint and the other sources. He will add stuff for his own benefit, like ooh, the political elite were saying this and that about, you know, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all that. Although the Bible was written about 70 to 90 A.D., according to Apocrypha, and that all this stuff was written much later, which is true. And so the the nativity story and that kind of thing is all part of one or two of the four pagan gospels, and so he goes into a bunch of the other stuff as filler, adding some of the other stuff. The apostles did know the Son of God story, so that's wrong. That's blatantly wrong in the book. They did know what Jesus was saying when he said, "I will be raised in 3 days." They just didn't want to believe it. Isn't it they didn't know? They knew. They wanted what isn't said in the book, and should be, is that the apostles wanted a king to conquer the Romans and kick them out. That's the apocryphal thing. They wanted the king to come and get rid of the Romans. And Jesus didn't come to get rid of the Romans. He apparently, in effect, came to convert them. Which is different. They didn't want to hear that. So it isn't that they didn't know. When he says they didn't know over and over again, they don't know what they do, they didn't know. It's that they didn't want to know. They didn't want to hear it. Kind of like today. And so we have the Romans acting like modern Republicans and modern Democrats. And we have this weird sort of like modernization of the Bible in here. And apart from all of the other mistakes in it, including he couldn't be heard on the cross. He's the Son of God. If he wanted to be heard on the cross, he'd be heard on the cross. Saying, if you've forsaken me and all that, he could make his voice go out. He was heard. They heard him. That's not in dispute. I mean, come on. He probably just, he was a little theatrics up there. So, yeah, it's like, and equating Roman times to now is silly. Why were they doing that? And they were in here. What's odd is when the Bible was written, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were a big group too. And they're sort of left out of the Gospels because they weren't as big as the Pharisees in the sense, at least to Matthew and Mark, Luke, and John. So we left them out, kind of. We just mentioned them on occasion. But the Pharisees are the main bad guys. And the who do you think I am thing and all that. And it's like if this was a true history book, which it isn't, it's a fiction, there would be some emphasis on where the actual history happened, and the only real records of all of that are the main Gospels, the main 300 AD ones, the official canon, and the Catholic canon, and also the Apocrypha and the other writings. There's nothing else. The Dead Sea Scrolls is from the time period as well. He uses that in the canon, the Duagint, the Septuagint. But those were stories that were made up, and a little bit of that extra Lazarus in the house kind of thing. He adds that too. That was Apocrypha. He heals him, but then we don't know what has happened to him after that. Yeah, we don't know even how old he was really. Yeah, the Martha, and the thing he did get right is that there were many Marys and many Marys back then, and that Mary Magdalene and Mary and Martha aren't the same person, and his mother Mary aren't the same person. Mary was a common name. That's about the only thing he got right. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, some of this, and the dates may not necessarily be entirely right. I mean, that's apocryphal too. He gives dates as if this is a news report. There's no date on any of this. The real Bible, there's no dates. I mean, in the sense that nobody's saying this is 30 A.D. That's if you look at like the concordance, the biblical concordance for pastors, or if you look at like a school Bible, it'll say dates just so students can follow it, and pastors can follow it in a sermon. But there's no, ooh, this happened on February 8th, 20 whatever, like Jerusalem A.D. midday 26. How does he know that? He doesn't know that. He made that up. Come on, Bill. Nobody knows that. It wasn't written down. Okay, that makes it fiction. Yeah. So, yeah, nice fiction book. But not a history book. I'm not going to go like the Bible-thumping, Bible-Belt people down in the South who are like, oh my God, it's blasphemy. Ah, it isn't blasphemous. It's a fiction. Like you know, like what was that? The Last Temptation of Christ, in which everybody got up to the end and didn't see the ending part where they put in the Last Temptation and then zap and then it's okay. And he really didn't do that. He was just thinking about it, which is kind of a cop-out. But yeah, that movie got a lot of flack for adding this Last Temptation in there. This is the plot of the movie. And really the temptation ends with him actually not taking the temptation. But, you know, that was another fiction. So this is a fiction as well. I'm guessing that since Bill O'Reilly is on tour and doing news reports and radio every day, that he doesn't have time to actually write these books. I'm guessing this guy down here, the small print, is actually the one that wrote it. Yeah, so. So yeah, and whenever they say a political pundit, best New York Times bestseller, they cheat. This guy's rich enough that he can say, hello, New York Times. This is Bill O'Reilly. I'd like you to give me a good review for the next 3 weeks. Yeah, I'll send you a little extra. You know what I mean? And they'll be all, yeah, okay. And that's the way it works. And, you know, so you know and who you share blow with in Hollywood. That's what they said on the Christy Miller show. I will cite my source there. They said that on the Christy Miller show. They said, it's who you know and who you share the blow with. I don't know Bill O'Reilly, but he is Irish. So I guess that's a little something in his favor. I don't know. But we have watched him many times and have not really ranted on him too much. Yeah, this isn't a bad story. It's just inaccurate. And he would say, well, how was it inaccurate? No, it was so hard. Well, this is actually, since this review is more of a commentary, like your show, Mr. O'Reilly, yeah, I don't need to cite my sources either. So this is basically, yeah, I'm not an expert. I'm not getting paid for having a review on a blog. So this review is not going to get paid, and if you are the Son of God, yes. Ew, and O'Reilly doesn't want to really admit that he's the Son of God, I don't think. You know, the Catholic Church tends to take that and say like, oh, the cross, he's still on the cross, he was actually killed in the resurrection. No, actually, according to the Christian mythos, he is actually resurrected and comes back. And one of the key points at Christ Community Church that's pointed out is that we're still talking about the guy like 2,000 years later. So, and clearly that impact of that whole the crucifixion thing and that still, you know, it must have had some major impact on the world as he was trying to do. That might have been something to put in the book. He said that the impact of that, I think there's a little bit of that in there. But the premise that we're still talking about Jesus of Nazareth in, you know, 2,014 years later. Well, roughly 1,700 and something years later. I'll put a date on it. 1,900 and something years later. Because it was probably around 28 to 33 AD. Not, as he said, 33 AD exactly. That's only if he was born, you know, BC 3 or whatever it was. Which, yeah, actually the original Greco-Roman dating calendar is actually off by 3 or 4 years. So technically he was probably born in 12 BC. So yeah, that throws off your whole thing there. But, oh well. But, yeah, you know, it wasn't the planetary alignment either. It was, God did it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Story of sticking to it. Okay, yeah. You're killing Jesus. I wanted to see how far he gets doing that one. Anyway, this is Cal Cat. Signing off.